Morning, my name's Mundie and I work in the kitchen garden at Harlow, Carr in Harrogate in North Yorkshire. We have a lot of vegetable waste and plants waste at this time of year, so what I'm going to go through today is how to build a compost bin. The first thing you want to think about is where you're going to put it. This is a good example of quite a nice size of compost bin. It gets a lot of material in. A lot of material means it gets hotter, which means it cooks quicker. That's a good thing. But you can have smaller ones, it's just a matter of managing it. So this is a good bin. It's got open sides for ventilation so that the compost bin won't get too soggy. It's got a nice area you can work in front of. You can get your materials in, you can get in to turn it. It's actually an interesting example because it's made out of waste milk bottles, plastic milk bottles that have been recycled. So you're even doing more for the environment with this bin. You can make it out of wood, out of old pallets. Everyone has a choice. It's what you've got. Don't worry too much about that. So the first thing to say is we've got this space here now, which is about 1 metre squared. It had leaf mould in it from last year and we've scraped that out now and it's onto the soil. That's quite important so that the compost heap can drain, but also the microbes and the creatures that are in the soil can get up into the compost heap and start processing it. So to start at the bottom, we've got some twiggy material. One of the important things that you have to consider is getting air into the compost because that's part of the process. So we've got a range of twiggy material, some old branchy stuff that we've used for plant supports, some quite tender woody cuttings that have just been cut off the hedge recently. And the idea of this is to spread it out on the bottom quite loosely, just to give you like a bit of a support that'll have a bit of air in there at the bottom. If you see, that's just a very loose scattering of that woody stuff in the bottom. Just put a bit more in to make it a bit tidier. And now you're ready to start building. So a lot of the stuff we've got this time of year is quite woody material. So you've got things like big plant stems of perennials and bulbs. You can see they've got quite soft material on there, as well as quite woody stems. And the thing about composting that's the most important is that you get that balance between the woody and the very soft green stuff. Okay? So when you're building, try to have a bit of a mixture handy in your mixture of baskets when you've been cutting back. It doesn't matter that you don't make it all at once, because most people don't, because they have little bits of stuff at different times of year. But every time you make a new layer, just try to mix it nicely and try to get a balance between the woody and the green. One of the things we always have people asking about is lawns. Everybody's cutting their lawns and they've got loads of green stuff. This is very wet and very soft green stuff. If you put it in a big thick layer, it causes one of the problems with compost, which is it becomes anaerobic. It doesn't have any air because it squashes down and excludes air. So looking at what we've got here, we can put a few cut down perennials that I've done this morning, just some flowers that are going over. So you can put a bit in there like that, just cross it over. Then if you've got a little layer of that, put some of this in. Scatter it over the top, just loosely. A bit more than that now. It's quite handy to have your stuff in piles by the side of the bin, and you can just then just add stuff as it needs to be. So you don't want a lot of this because it will fall through and block all the air gaps. And then you just simply keep going like that. So in the wheelbarrow here, I've just collected some stuff this morning that I've cut back, and these are some perennials that I've cut down. And you might think that this is green because there is a lot of green leaf on it, but actually if you look at the stalks, they're quite woody. The other thing you might be concerned about is that there are some seed heads on there. But if your compost bin works properly and you get a good mixture of nitrogenous green stuff and carbon, which is the woody stuff, they should heat up enough to kill those seeds. So I'll just put a mixture of these on here. Again, just loosely sort of cross them over so that they're not all pointing one way, so that they kind of form a little bit of a mesh, if you like. We've just got a lot more green stuff here. We get another layer. It's quite a satisfying job to do on an autumn day. Yeah, really good. So a bit more of the grass now mixed in because you've got some woody layers going on. And so you can put that just a bit more in there. This is usually the reason it stops, because you make it too wet and there's too much of one thing. It is like mixing thoroughly a cake. And then it is just a matter of a bit of a feel for it. Just you don't want it too heavy and wet feeling. So I'm going to put a bit more sort of woodier things even now and make another looser layer on the top. Okay, so you can put leaves in the compost heap, but not evergreen ones because they take a long time to break down. And any deciduous leaves you put in, you're probably best to try and break up by mowing them so they're in small pieces. Other woody stuff you can add if it gets too wet, torn up newspaper, that sort of thing. Straw, not grass, so quite dry again. That sort of stuff will help bring it back from if it's too wet and heavy. But otherwise keep stacking, and eventually you'll get a nice full heap, and then you can put some kind of lid on it, because if it has a lid on, it'll stop it from getting too wet in the heavy rain in winter. Give it a bit of protection and keep it warm, and the heat is what will make it cook properly. And that's the idea. So we've got lots of nice old courgette plant leaves here. They're nice and easy to break down, quite soft leaves. The other thing I've got here, which again, if it stops cooking, if it stops working, usually because there's too much woody stuff, we've got a plant called Comfrey. Which some people will have come across. It's one of the Boraginaceae family, and this is Bocking 14, which is from Henry Doubleday, from their researchers there. It's a great plant. It's got a load of nitrogen, it's got a load of potash in it. So basically you put this in, it breaks down quickly, releases those chemicals and starts that thing working again. They're very easy to grow and they're not invasive, so it's probably, if you've got a little patch, it's quite useful to have one. They will help with that compost recipe as well. Just break them up and put a few layers on. These are from the brassica plants that are great at shedding leaves everywhere. So kales and cabbages, they're producing quite a lot of mixture of leaves and woody stems. I wouldn't worry about breaking these up too much. They're not too woody in that respect. So again, another nice layer like that. And then you just keep going like that until you've got to the end of your leaves and whatever, and then put your lid on. Now, once it's working away, you can keep adding to it, but in layers, again, mixed layers. And it will take, depending on how well insulated and how good your mix is, it can take 6 months to a year. But if you get this right, you'll get some lovely stuff out the other end. So just a bit more mixing and that'll be all that stuff in there. Some other things that you might not want to put in to your compost heap are things like cooked food, especially meat, because that you will potentially have problems with rats then. But if you don't do that, that will be fine. The other thing, maybe not too much citrus stuff. If you do mix it quite well, you might have come across sometimes a problem where you get a lot of flies at the top of the compost heap. Quite often it's because you've put lemon peelings, bananas, that sort of things, orange skin, and that attracts the fruit flies. All you need to do with that is just bury it, put it underneath the compost that's already, or the layers that's already there. The other things to think about, if it gets too dry, you can need to water it as well. Put a little bit of water in if you're finding it's just looking dusty and not actually doing anything. So now you've built your compost, you don't necessarily have to worry about turning it too much. What will happen if you fill the bin is that the centre will get hottest and the outside bit won't be as hot, so it won't necessarily rot down as quickly. So, but that's fine, you can just take the central stuff out and then just reuse the stuff that's not properly composted and start it off again next time you do your composting. So to turn the compost heap, this one's quite a good box because you can take the whole front off. You really don't want to be trying to lean over a gated box or anything like that because it's bad for your back. So you need to basically fork out, you can put something like a tarpaulin on the thing or have a wheelbarrow, fork out the stuff, extract the good stuff that's become soil, and then the rest of it put back. So you're just taking it all out, putting it back in again. Yeah, so that might be difficult for people to do, but as I say, it's not necessarily a thing you have to do. So one thing you do need to remember, if you are turning your compost heap, this time of year there's going to be hedgehogs looking for places to hibernate, so be really careful when you start to do that process. Just have a very gentle poke in first. The other thing we found the other year was a whole family of toads living in our compost heap, which we had to rescue and give to another home. So yeah, just be careful about that. Okay, so that's basics of building a compost heap. I can recommend it. It's very satisfying when it works. It's great for the environment. You're putting back into the soil things that you've taken away. So happy composting.